Chapter 4, Communication in Everyday Life. So there are 3 objectives in this chapter. First of all, we'll explain the importance of communication in everyday life, how important it is. Second objective, we'll demonstrate types and components uh, of the communication, the importance of the communication. And finally, we investigate the interpersonal skills that help in achieving effective communication, how we can be effective in our communication. So there are many ways that individuals and groups communicate. So what does communication mean? Communication basically is the exchange of information, whether using computer, using technology, or having face-to-face, discussion. So the basic skills of any communication process is the 4 skills that we know: speaking, listening, reading, and writing. And these skills are the first skills you go through when you want to learn any new language, because it social media among individuals or groups of
هذا
members.
قطعة صوت.
So
دكتور
social media are
أسمع
online
يقطع
communities
الصوت.
that use technology. Okay. كويس الصوت الحين؟
Yes.
أي،
Okay, كويس.
Okay. Social media are online communities that use technology to communicate among individuals or group members. So these media have changed the way we find friends and we get in touch with friends. In social media now we have, for example, WhatsApp. You can send message at any time.
قطع صوت
Twitter are.
انقطع الصوت يا دكتور.
Can you hear me well now? اسمعني كويس؟
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter are popular example of social media websites. Businesses and industry use these contact methods to market their products. As you know now, for example, Snapchat, there are many advertisements in Snapchat and Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. So businesses are using these social media to advertise for their products. Cell phones have become necessary for all people, for at all ages, children, old man, old women, young, all people, they need cell phones. With cell phones, they can send text messages, which deliver short messages, photos, videos. And cell phones have also application, what they call apps, that provide many options to access resources such as books, games, GPS like maps, music, YouTube, weather. All these are many examples of the apps that can use in using cell phones. There are 3 types of communication: oral communication, written communication, and non-verbal communication. So oral communication is the use of the spoken words to exchange ideas and information. So examples: conversation between 2 persons, meetings, voice message, teleconferencing. Today, for example, now I am talking and you are listening. This is oral communication. Can be sent instantly and provide immediate feedback. So you can send voice, you can talk on the phone with someone, and you can hear the feedback immediately. The disadvantage of the oral communication is it has a little time to reflect and there's no written record. So there's no evidence. So for example, if you talk to someone and he promised you something, there is nothing written on that. Second type of communication is the written communication, which is exchanging the information through the use of written words and sentences. Examples: letters, faxes, text messages, emails, reports, and so on. So it has proven. So you have a proof that you exchange that one. The disadvantage is there is no immediate feedback. So when you send email, you might get a response today or after 1 week or after 1 month. So you don't have immediate feedback. Third type of communication is non-verbal communication, which is communicating without words. So examples, body language, gestures, facial expression, body movements, position, and so on. They are stronger than the verbal messages. So they are stronger than the oral communication, and effective communication combine oral and non-verbal, technologies. So if you are in the class face to face, I'm in front of you, you will see my hands moving, I'm talking, it will be more effective than, oral only. So there are different purposes of communication. You either want to inquire, you want to ask, for example, which cell phone you want to choose, or you want to inform, so you want to give information. For example, you want to say, I choose this cell phone because it has, free apps, or you want to pursue, so you want to convince somebody with some opinion. So you want to say, example, you should buy this full cell phone today because you are there are it's run out of stock. Or last, purpose of communication is to develop a goodwill. So you want to say thank you for buying your new cell phone from our company. So you want to develop, relation after you're done with your deal. So when we think about communication, there is a sender, message sender on the left side, you have see, and there is a message receiver, you see in right side. So message sender has a message, which is the actual message. You can say the arrow on the above, actual message. And it goes through what we call message transmission. So you transmit the message there in the air, on the phone, whatever. Then it is received by the receiver, message receiver, and then he start interpretation. So he interpret the message itself, so what they call message interpretation. Then the receiver sent feedback to the sender, which is a combination of written, oral, and verbal communication. These are basically the components of any communication. So we can summarize it in 6 components. First of all, message sender, who compose the intended message. Then we have the actual message, which might be or might not be the intended message. Then we have the message transmission, which determine the specific situation. And number 4, the message receiver, which take the delivery of the message. And number 5 is the message interpretation, which is the interpret the message itself, which is done by receiver. And finally, the feedback, which is provided by both receiver and sender, confirming receiving the message and the understanding of the message. There are many factors that affect the communication. 4 factors can affect the communication process by both sender and receiver, and they should both know. First of all, the background of the receiver. What is the knowledge he has? Personality, experience, interest, motivation. All of these are very important. When you want to communicate to someone, you need to know the background of the receiver so that you can have a better and effective communication message. Number 2, the appearance of the sender or the sender communication. So if you are, for example, giving a speech, your appearance is very important and makes difference. If you are writing something, the appearance of the message itself, the professional writing message is giving a positive impression. Number 3, barriers that might negatively affect the intended message. So if you want to give a message, there might be barriers that negatively affect the message. And the barriers can be physical distractions, like if there are noise, heat, headache, illness. These are physical distractions. And there might be emotional distractions, like if there is anger, thinking about personal matters. So there are emotional, things that affect the communication. Number three could be cultural barriers, like language differences and so on. And number four could be electronic distractions, such as cell phone texting, multitasking. All of these are examples of barriers that could be negatively impacting, the intended message. And the fourth factor is the language and communication skills of the sender and the receiver. So you have to choose carefully your words that express the message you want to send. You have to be very sensitive with cultural diversity when you communicate. And you have to, the sender must have a broad vocabulary to allow him to spell right, pronounce right the words. And in spoken communication, word choice, grammar, and pronunciation are factors. And in written communication, the incorrect word choice might change the meaning of the message. Then the receiver must be able to read and listen with understanding. And finally, both the sender and receiver share the responsibility of effective communication, of effective communication. And now let's talk about interpersonal and intrapersonal. So what's the difference between intrapersonal and interpersonal communication? Okay, what are the difference between both? So effective communication requires the sender understand his own interpersonal communication. So the effective communication requires the sender to understand his own intrapersonal communication. So what are your own skills? Okay. And intrapersonal communications, the way each person views and interrupt information based on a previous experience. So what is your intrapersonal communication is what's your experience. Okay, so intrapersonal communication, the communication skills you have for yourself must take place before you can communicate with another person. So you have your own intrapersonal communication. You have your own skills in communication before you can communicate with other. So interpersonal communication occurs when two persons, such as doctor and patient, talk with each other. This is what they call it, interpersonal communication. So now, what are the responsibilities of the sender and receiver? What are these personalities? What are the responsibilities of the sender receiver to have ensure that the message is well received and well sent? First of all, avoid miscommunication. Avoid miscommunication. So the message you send, the actual message, and the interpreted message should be the same. So miscommunication could occur and one of these messages, either the intended or actual or interpreted message. So because there are it is moving from the sender to transmission to the receiver. So you always better to give feedback and receive feedback. So when you get involved in oral or written or nonverbal communication, it's better to send feedback. For example, you heard something and you were not sure about it, you should tell him, do you mean this? So this is what we call it, evaluate each communication situation. Number two, understand the personal needs. You have to understand the needs of the receiver using Abraham Maslow 5-level needs. The Abraham Maslow came out with 5-level needs: physical, security, social, esteem, and self-actualization. First of all, physical needs are food, clothes, and so on. Security needs are to be safe, physically and mentally. Third needs are the social needs, having family, social contact, work relationship, and so on. The number four, esteem needs, satisfying the feeling, self-importance, the feeling of self-respectful, and so on. And number five, self-actualization needs, which the sense of achieving the competency and the creativity by helping others to meet their own needs. And you can see here, you can see here this, 5 level of needs here. So step number three, or responsibility number three, is assess the needs of the receiver. So by helping the receiver satisfying the higher 2-level needs, which is the self-actualization, the esteem, you can improve the communication. The higher the 2 levels are the esteem and self-actualization. And the fourth responsibility is applying the interpersonal skills. Again, the interpersonal skills is the ability to understand and deal with people in a way that maintain the relationship and the goodwill. Some tips are: use the you attitude. So put yourself in the listener or the reader first. So read it from his perspective. So, for example, you can say for your convenience. So you should avoid the I attitude. You should use the you. So you should not say because it fits my schedule. Say because it fits your schedule, for example. Number two is be a good listener. So listen carefully, ask a question, take notes. Number three, maintain confidentiality. So don't release any information to inappropriate persons. And number four is be considerable, be considerate. So treat I want to be treated. So
teacher الصوت يقطع.
We can't hear you, sir.
yes, so be considerate. So be well communicated. Put yourself in the other, person place. Be honest. Be patient, and respect opinions of others. This slide summarizing this responsibility, evaluating the situation, and understanding the needs of the sender and receiver, and also the receiver especially, and applying the interpersonal skills. And these are the actions. So you have to avoid miscommunication, give feedback, maintain goodwill in the first step. In the second step, you have to fulfill the own needs of the receiver needs. And the third step, you have to use the you attitude, be positive, be good listener, maintain confidentiality, and be considerate. This is the slides of chapter 4. If there is any question, we will answer these questions.